Hello and welcome back to Rule a Game. In this video, I'm going to show you how to play Biome, a game that was previewed at Essen 2024. This is the Kickstarter version that we just got. It's a game by Leonie Grundler. It is for 1 to 4 players, lasts about 60 to 90 minutes, and it's recommended started at age 10. This video will not cover the solo player version, and I will also not show you the advanced rules. This is really for people who just play this for the first time in a 2 to 4 player round. As usual, I'll first show you how to win points in this game, then I'll show you how to play it, I'll give you some hints for your first game, and then I'll show you how to set it up. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. But now, let's get started with Biome. Rule the game. In Biome, you fill 3 different biomes: the prairie, the marsh, and the jungle, with animals and also trees. With every single move that you do, you gain some victory points, and whoever has the most victory points at the end of the game wins the game. There are a few different ways to win victory points. For one, every single card that you have has up here victory points. When you play that card on your personal board, you'll gain these points right away. Then there will be different achievements, 4 of them, on the main board here, and whoever achieves those achievements will get more points depending on how early they get this throughout the game compared to the other players. You'll also be activating cards that might have victory points on them that are shown here in these little coin symbols. You'll also gain points by breeding birds and rabbits, while other players will try to prey on these little baby animals, and they might also look for different animals that have fallen out of the nest that they can scavenge on. There are different ways how this game can end. Either a player reaches 120 points, or they fill their board completely with cards, or you've played 12 rounds, meaning 3 years with 4 different seasons. And at the end of those rounds, when this trigger happens, then you'll check whoever has the most points, and the person with the most points wins. In case of a tie, the 2 players share the victory. Biome is played in rounds. In each round, you're going to go through different phases that sometimes are played simultaneously, or in some cases also one at a time. You'll always go in order from top to bottom as it's shown here on the main board. Each round stands for a season in 3 consecutive years that you're going to be playing, if the game lasts that long and it doesn't end before that. We will now go together through the different phases in a round. As you can see, each player has here a board where they already have some cards, because I decided I'm not going to show you the very beginning. That you can see in the setup of the game section at the very end. But we're going to start here somewhere in the middle of the game where I already have some cards here. I, as a player, also have some hand cards that are not shown to the players. I have some of these tokens here, and down here I also have some more resources. Now, first, in the phase that everybody plays simultaneously, every player looks at their hand cards, checks how many they have, and then they have to reduce them to just 8 cards. Should you have more than 8 cards, you'll discard however many cards you have extra on the side of the board somewhere, and you'll get, for every 2 cards that you have, you're going to get either another card or one resource that is one of these resources down here. Next, you're going to pick up 2 cards from the main deck. So now, even if you're above 8 cards, that doesn't matter. You can have more cards during the game. It's just when you get to the phase that says here, limit to 8, that's when you have to reduce it. Next, I can pick up resources here. Resources are any of these resources over here, with the exception of the little rabbits and the little chicks. So these 6 different resources that you have here and that are also shown here. You'll pick up 2 and take them on, put them on your board. Now you will see that there's a little asterisk here. This one stands here for the same asterisk that is also up here for round 2, year 2 and year 3. In this case, in year 2 and in year 3, the person who's last in the victory points that are shown up here on the main board, the person who's last can actually pick up one more resource. And finally, in this phase that everybody plays simultaneously, every player is allowed to play a card. They can play any card that they have in their hand here. And what they just have to do is you have to pay the resources, like right here. You see on this card, by the way, you'll see here how it has 4 victory points. It is a bird. It goes here in the jungle because it is green. So it goes here in the jungle. It costs me these 3 icons, these 3 different tokens that I have here that I return to supply. It also has an action. We'll get to this later. That's part of a later phase. And up here, it also shows you how many baby chicks it can have on this feather. That's 2 for this one. You can place a card wherever you want to, as long as you can pay the resources. You can, of course, exchange cards and also different resources 2-to-1 at any point in time. So you can discard 2 suns to get a fish, for example. In the event that you cannot play a card or you don't want to play a card, you can draw another card. After you've played your card, you get your victory points right away. So 4 victory points, you mark them here on the victory point track. This is for the phase that is played simultaneously. Next up, we will play a seasonal event. Now, in the standard version of the game, there is no seasonal event for fall. There's also no seasonal event for winter. I will explain to you later on how the seasonal events, the nesting event, works for spring and also how it works for summer. So since we're in fall now, we don't do any action here. We go straight down to activate a card. To activate a card, you now go one at a time. This is in order. And the person who has this feather is the starting player in this round. The person will then take one of their cubes and place it on any of the cards that they have. And they will then play whatever the card says. So in this case, actually, it says, give 1 victory point to another player. So I'll take 1 away from myself, give it to the other player, and then play a marsh card worth up to 4 coins for free. Let me see if I have a marsh card. Marsh cards are, of course, blue. Up to 4 points. And we'll see I have a mangrove tree that I decide to place right here. Now, when you activate a card, you can only activate each card once. That's why we put these little cubes on them. And so you can see here, those cards that I have here that I already have a cube on them, they're all spent and I can't use them anymore. Then the other players, in clockwise order, get to activate their 1 card. And once this is done, we rotate the starting player. I hand this over to the next player. This one goes back up into the simultaneous phase. We're also going to move here to the next season. Now there's some exceptional cards. For example, the bald eagle is at the same time blue and brown. So it cannot be at the same time in the marsh or in the prairie. I can place it here. I can just as well place it here. I will leave it here, but you'll see other cards that are this way too. You'll also see that you might have some of these cards here where you can actually transform one space in another space. So for example, I can turn here the marsh into a prairie. So then later on, if I want to do so, I can place a prairie card here on this card because I've changed the different conditions. To play this card doesn't cost me anything. It also says play anytime. Now the different cards have many different actions that can be done. Should you be unsure what the action might mean, please go and have a look at the instructions. They're all explained a little further. Now I've said in fall and winter nothing really special happens. Let me show you what happens when we come to springtime. Again, you will play through the simultaneous phase here. You're going to go and reduce the cards, you draw cards, you collect resources, you play a card, but now you come to the seasonal event. In spring, the seasonal event is nesting. Nesting is done simultaneously by all players. What you do here is that you actually see that some of the cards, especially all the trees have always two little nest symbols on them. Other plants might have one, and there are even some that actually don't have any at all. But here on my board, I always have nests on them. So that always means I can have, for example, here for the blue grama grass, I can have one nest on it. Now, nests are right here, and each bird can nest on a tree that's adjacent to it. So, for example, here, the hooded merganser can have a nest either here or here or here. It's always between the bird and the tree. Let's say we put it right here. Now, for the bald eagle in the prairie, it can also just have one nest for that bird. And typically, the nest should be in the same area. So a bird in the prairie should also have the nest in the prairie. However, since the bald eagle is also partially a marsh animal, so it's partially blue, as you can see on the side and here in the symbol, I could place the bird's nest also here. Here, 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 all three options are available. Let's say I've placed it here. And then over here, we have some more birds. We have here the bird, the vulture, that can also have a nest here. We can have here a nest for the hornbill. As you can see, there are two nests on here. And every single plant can have 4 nests for rabbits. Well, rabbits don't really have a bird's nest, but we're still going to put a bird's nest here. So the symbol on the cards here is really just for the bird's nest, how many bird's nests are allowed. But the rabbits can always have a little nest under the tree. And then I fill it now with the little baby chicks and the little baby rabbits. And I fill it always by how many chicks it says here on this feather. So here it says 4. So 4 different little mini birds go here in this nest. And same here with the eagle has 2. And so on. In the case of rabbits, rabbits always have 6 little rabbits that go in here. So we'll put 6 in here. 4, 5, and 6. That's the part for the nesting phase. And now every player would, again, in turn order, activate 1 card. And then we go into the next season, which is then summer. Now again, in summer, you'll do all these 4 actions up here simultaneously. And then we get to the predation phase. The predation phase is done in an order, but it's not the usual turn order, but it is actually the order in the reverse order of your victory points. So the person who has the least victory points goes first, and what they do is they'll check if they have a predator on their board. I, in my case, have this bald eagle. It shows here predator. And what that means is that I can use now my predator to go and get baby chicks from another player from their nest. However, their nest has to be here also in the prairie. I can only attack a nest that is in the same area. And then I decide on the other player's board which nest I want to attack. So let's say somebody else is attacking me here on the prairie. Maybe they also have an eagle or something on their board. They're attacking me. They attack this nest here. What they do now is they take the die, they roll the die, and they have to roll a number that is higher than the number of plants that I have in this area. I currently have here the grass and the oak tree, so I have 2 plants. Another player who has a predator needs to roll at least 3 if they want to actually successfully attack my nest. Unfortunately, they only rolled a 2. Had they rolled a 3 or higher, in this case a 4, they can now take at the most 2 birds, if possible, out of the nest. They put them back in the supply, and for each of the birds that they could take out, they now get 2 victory points. So in total, this person has now gotten 4 victory points. If your predator was unsuccessful because you rolled a number that was too low, you'll still get to draw 3 cards instead of the victory points that he just didn't get. And then it's the person who has the second least points, the third least points, and so on, until everybody has played their predators. And then it's time for every player to feed their baby bird so that they can leave the nest. To do this, you'll have to go for every single nest and try to feed those baby birds the food that their parent would like. So in this case, you see the merganser here has fish that they want. I don't have any fish, so I can't pay for these little chicks, unfortunately. Over here, the hornbill wants any of these three things that I have here. I actually have here these two tokens that the hornbill would like. So I put them back in the supply. For each of the resources that I paid, I can take a little chick out. That goes back into the supply, that left the nest, and I also get 2 victory points for each. So I get 2, 4. Now, as you can see, I just passed here a bonus. I passed a bonus that will get me 1 free sun from the supply. At the end of the feeding phase, I will pick up this and place it here in my resources. However, I might not be done with feeding animals, because here I have rabbits, and the rabbits eat leaves, so I'll give them 2 leaves for 2 rabbits. I take them out, pay for them, and I move again by 2, 4. And let me see over here, I don't have any resources left. That's all I can do. Now, as you can see, I pass this, I'll get a sun for this one here, and I'll get a card from the main deck here for my deck here. If at any point during the game you've just passed or you just ended up on a bonus, if you somehow go backwards, because some of those cards will actually give you activations that will where you lose victory points. If you go past a bonus back, if you pass it again, you will get the bonus a second time. Should you be able to finish your round and go on a second lap, you won't get any of these extra bonuses anymore. So now we played the predation phase, we played the feeding phase, and what we haven't done yet, because it's not said, it doesn't say here, well, we also have here the vulture. There are 2 vultures in the game. Should one of the vultures or both vultures be in there, then the person who has a vulture can now go and scavenge. And what they can do is that they can choose another player, and for each of the little chicks and the little bunnies that are still in the nest that haven't been fed, they can scavenge them all, and they will get a card and a victory point for each of those animals. So let's say if my opponent had this one here, it says here you can only go and feed on the jungle cards. So if my opponent had this vulture, they could now come and pick up my birds here, 2 of them, and here 4 bunnies. They all go back into the supply, and the player who had the vulture would get 6 cards and 6 victory points. Now, once we've done the predation phase, the feeding phase, and also scavenging phase here, we will remove all the nests here from the board. We also take the nests that still have little chicklets and little rabbits in them. We'll remove them all from the board. We activate a card again, and we move into the next year, into fall. Now, the last thing I have to explain to you is the achievement cards, where you get extra bonuses. You'll see here 4 different conditions that are needed to win any of these achievements. If you achieve any of these conditions, like for example, you have 4 or more cards with a line on the 3 different areas on your board, then you get to take your cube and put it on the leftmost space that is still available. In this case, I'll be the first to do it. I put it right on here, and you see I get 10 victory points, so then I'll move my token here by 10. A second player to achieve it will then place their cube on the next open field, so they only get 6 victory points. Should 2 players fulfill this condition in the same phase, so in the same phase over here, they both place their cube here on the first, they both get the full points, and the next player, the third player, then has to leave out a space and ends up here on the 3. And so you keep playing until either you've passed the third year and summer, the last season, or until a player has passed the finish line here at 120, or if a player was able to fill their player's board completely with cards. And here are some hints for your first game. Generally, I suggest you just try it out. You don't have to worry so much in this game about resources. Having enough resources is not so difficult to achieve because in every single round you get at least 2 resources just from the regular phase that you have there. The cards are usually also not that expensive to buy, so in each round you should be able to play at least 1 card, and I advise you to really play a card because you need them to get victory points. There are only about 8 to 10 rounds in this game usually, and so you should really try to play your cards whenever you get an opportunity, meaning in every single round. So plan ahead with the resources that you have so that you can get these cards on the table. That's the main resource for points that you get. Also, try to get as many achievements as possible because that's where you get a lot of points. If you get the 10 points for winning the achievement, that is the same as putting down 2 or 3 cards at the same time. Most cards won't give you much more than 4 or 5 points, as you can see here on my board. So getting an achievement really gives you a lot more extra points. So try to plan ahead from the very beginning to get some of these achievements done. I personally like to have predators and also some of the scavengers if I could get a vulture. I've never been able to catch a vulture, but if I had been, I would have definitely taken a vulture just because I like it and I think it's fun. But in terms of points, it's okay. It's not like gives you that many points as if you were actually be able to put down more cards. And then, of course, in every single round, you should activate a card because otherwise it's just a waste of your moves. Activate anything, but try to, of course, do it logically, meaning in the very beginning, you activate cards that give you resources so that you can buy more cards later. And towards the end of the game, of course, you might activate cards that give you extra victory points. So that's where you can really gain more points in this game. And that's Biome. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please subscribe. And if you want to see how to set up the game, that will be in the next section coming up. To set up the game, you put the main board with the victory track in the middle of the table. Every player then takes one of their boards here and puts it in front of them. They'll also take their cubes and put them right here. And they'll place the starting token or the victory token here on the start here field. Then you take all the cards that have this design on the back, shuffle them all together, you put them right here in the main deck. Then you take the cards here with the green frame, you'll also shuffle them, and you place 1 card here on each of the achievements. You then take the cards here with the yellow outline. Those are bird cards and tree cards. You'll take out only the birds, you shuffle only the birds, and then you hand each player a bird from this deck. The players then check here what the number is down on the bottom here, and they'll get the tree of the same number too. In this case, it's here the tupelo tree. The players now take these 2 cards and they have to put them orthogonally next to each other in the respective biome. In this case, this goes in the marsh because it's blue cards, and you can place them this way or that way, just diagonal is not allowed. We will then mark the current season and the year. We're starting year 1. We'll start up here with the simultaneous part of the game, and then we also have fall here. That's the first season we start with. We assign the starting player feather to somebody. In this case, it's me. Then every player gets 3 starting cards that they can look at and take themselves. We also place the resources and the little rabbits and the little chicks and the nests here on the side, as well as the die and the coin. And every player gets 1 resource of each that they then place in the respective field on their personal board right here. And now we're ready to go.